for your business? Let's have a talk about that today. First of all, a little bit about me. My name's Anthony. I'm the founder of Tallant Asia. You can read a little bit more about me on the Tallant Asia website, or if you want to, you can have a look at my LinkedIn profile. The link is here. We will be sharing this PowerPoint with you later on so that you can click on that link, and we'll be putting it up on YouTube. So I've got 15 years experience working in Asia, mainly in China and Hong Kong, and in the last 4 years, frequently coming out to the Philippines. And what I've been doing here in the Philippines is in the offshoring and outsourcing environment. So I have a lot of experience in offshoring and outsourcing, in recruiting and account management. Don't forget, you can give us a shout out. Our hashtag is OutsourceTA. So the webinar today will be broken down into 4 main parts. You've got the history of outsourcing in the Philippines. We are going to be looking at the different models and terminology for outsourcing. We'll be looking at the pros and cons of outsourcing, and also how to build a successful team, probably the most important thing. A history of outsourcing. As you can see here from this picture, you've got Telstra here. By the way, their offices are just next door to us in the IT park, and they've got thousands and thousands of people here. Large companies like Telstra, JP Morgan, Accenture have been outsourcing to the Philippines and India and other places since the 1990s. One of the biggest changes that has happened in recent years is that outsourcing is no longer the domain of larger companies. Small and medium-sized enterprises are now entering the market, and it is technology that's driving this. That's because there has been a large movement to software to the cloud. So the servers are no longer under the basement or under the stairs. The servers are now in the cloud. It means that if you're doing your software with Xero, you could be doing it sitting in Sydney, you could be doing it sitting in a suburb outside of Sydney, you could be doing it in the Philippines or anywhere in the world, as long as there is a stable infrastructure. So the barriers and constraint of staff locations have been removed. They're not being removed, they're not in the process, they are removed already. You just need to reach out and find the solutions to your staffing. Going through the history a bit more, in the 1950s and 60s, businesses tried to do all functions in-house, and this led to large and unwieldy and bloated structures. In the 1980s, the first steps were taken in IT outsourcing, and in a big way. I mean, there was some outsourcing before that, but it really took off in the 1980s. And in the 1990s, offshoring began with, in the 1990s, offshoring really began in the Philippines, with a point zero being in the Philippines, being when Accenture started up their first office in Makati in 1992. Now for some facts and figures, and they're pretty impressive. Currently, the BPO industry employs 1.3 million people in the Philippines. It generated around US $25 billion in revenue for the country. And these numbers are set to grow. In fact, they're looking to double by 2022. By the way, all of the sort of facts and figures, etc., are referenced, and they'll be at the end of the slide for you to have a look at. A really important date for the BPO industry is the end of 2015, and that was when revenue from the BPO sector overtook foreign remittances for the first time. Now let's have a look at what roles you can outsource. It's an interesting question, because that has been changing as technology has developed and people have become used to building offshore teams. So in the past, most work was call center oriented. As companies have seen how successful a team can be here in the Philippines, the nature of the roles has changed, or I might say that additional types of roles that weren't looked at before are now being looked at to be done in the Philippines. That is more complex analytical tasks that are being done by remote teams, such as marketing. You've got social media, content writing, graphic design, web design. You have the traditional roles. They won't go away. They'll still be here, and the Philippines are very good at it. So that's client service roles such as customer support, etc., tech support. A really big move in recent years has been in accounting and HR. So that is in bookkeeping, business and personal tax returns. IT support, that is getting a software development team and programmers here. And another more traditional role, the secretarial function, which is your corporate secretarial, managerial, admin, personal, and executive assistants. Now let's have a little bit of a look at understanding the jargon. There's a lot of jargon that's thrown around. You may or may not know it. I thought we'd go through it today. Outsourcing. So outsourcing just refers to any event of getting work performed by a third party. Now that's been happening for centuries. When you were a publisher back centuries ago, you would get your bookbinding done somewhere else. You wouldn't do it yourself. That is a form of outsourcing. What is offshoring? Offshoring is a type of outsourcing that specifically refers to the work by the vendor being done in another country. The BPO industry, I'm sure you've heard of that. It means business process outsourcing. That is the general catch-all term when referring to back office work that is being done by a vendor. There's been a new term that is being used at the moment more frequently is KPO. KPO means knowledge process outsourcing, and that is a new word that has emerged to capture the increase in highly skilled work that is being done by outsourcing and offshoring companies. So it refers to work that's being done by engineers, business analytics, etc. That is all known as KPO. So now we're going to have a poll break. I'll still be here. I'll just mute my microphone, and we'll get this poll happening. Just give me a tick. So I'm going to go back to sharing the screen, and we'll go back to the poll. Now, from the results of the poll, most people felt that it was lack of information on how to do it. Great, we want to help you with that, and we understand that getting a team here, if you haven't done it before, can be a little bit daunting. So we want to help you and work with you to overcome those problems and really make your experience in building a team in the Philippines successful. I want to talk about Cebu now, why we've moved to Cebu. It may not be the first thing that comes to mind when you're looking at building a team in the Philippines, but it certainly should be because of its rise as a preeminent destination for outsourcing around the world. Let's have a look at Cebu a little bit. So you'll see the map here. You've got Manila up here, which is in central Luzon. Which is in Luzon, up in the north, and you'll see Cebu here down in central Visayas. It's surrounded by other islands, and that becomes really important which we'll talk about later on regarding typhoons, or the fact that we don't get hit by a lot of them in Cebu because we're protected by the surrounding islands. And we'll have a bit of a closer look at Cebu now. So this is a map of Cebu and Cebu City. Tallant, which is it's an international think tank and consulting group on things such as outsourcing, recently ranked Cebu #7 in the world as an outsourcing destination, and there are a lot of reasons for that, and we'll be looking at that in a moment. If we look at the map here, you'll see Cebu City. That's where we're located. We're located centrally in the IT park. You also have other areas like Mactan Island, where you have Lapu-Lapu. If you're coming up here, please do take the time to see some of the great places that are here. Bohol Island has some of the best diving around the world. It'd be a fantastic place to do a team building exercise for you and the staff that you've got here in the Philippines. So why Cebu, and why did we choose to set up in Cebu? Well, it's not just what we think. Like I said before, Tallant, which is an advisory firm in outsourcing, has ranked Cebu as #7 in the world. What are the reasons behind this? Well, one, it's in the central Visayas region. It is a center of education, trade, and commerce. So it attracts talented individuals from all around the region, all come to Cebu. There is really quality infrastructure here. And this is proven by the fact that you have the presence of very large multinational corporations, such as Accenture, IBM, Lexmark, JP Morgan, etc., or here Telstra as well. So it's a good reason why it's been described as the golden age of infrastructure by President Duterte. The local talent here have an excellent advantage in the fact that their English speaking skills are very high, and they also have a very westernized culture. The Cebuano culture is predominantly Spanish, American, and of course with Filipino culture mixed in. They also tend to speak English to people who are outside the Visayas region, so they get natural practiced English even before they're working with foreign clients. And as I mentioned before, there is the geographical advantage and the remoteness from typhoons, the protection by the outlying islands that stop large typhoons hitting Cebu. You can read more about this on the Tallant Asia website at tallant.asia/blog. Right, some of the pros and cons of outsourcing. Let's have a look at the cons first. Get the bad news out of the way. Cons. Number one, the hidden costs of outsourcing. The number one thing I would say is the cost of management and coordination. An example of this would be not documenting company procedures. The people are often shocked when they realize how much of their day-to-day work procedures are not documented. And you really need to get on top of this. You have to dedicate time to it to make sure that when you look at offshoring your processes, that there are run books and manuals, etc., that are written down and codified so that you can pass that on to the staff member in the Philippines. Now, we can help you with that. We work with you on that. We get our staff to build manuals and run books, and you can do videos on Zoom or whatever and walk through it, and we can type up the manuals for you. But you have to dedicate time to it. It's a really important thing, because the other part that's so important is that when you have a staff member here and you want to scale, you don't want to have to retrain all the time. You need to get into a position where the first team member, your lead team member, can act as a trainer to other staff members, allowing for realistic, scalable growth that doesn't trip you over. So another one is be careful of additional work. Make sure that everything is outlined in the contract, make sure that there are no hidden costs, and find a vendor with simple, straightforward pricing. We break down everything for our clients. Salary, benefits, and fee is all out in the open. So, 2, cons of outsourcing. Security and privacy issues. Maybe another one probably on par with with the first one of management concerns. The security is hugely concerning to companies. We get that. Make sure that you're following strict privacy procedures. For example, is the hardware locked down? Are USBs disabled? Are the staff trained on basic security measures, such as using password managers? Do we train the staff on sensitive data? Yes, we do. We also strictly enforce NDAs. We've got our own internal NDAs, and also when clients have NDAs that they want to have the staff sign directly, we're okay with that too. So we pay a lot of attention. We're very cognizant that security is a massive issue for clients, and it's why we have managers here, and it's why our staff work from offices and not from home. Number 3, lack of collaboration and communication inside the company. That means your company. So yes, you need to manage the apprehension of your local team. We get that. I think the main thing that you and your team need to understand is that this is not about taking jobs from Australians or Americans or Dutch or whoever. It's not about that at all. We're about liberating your time and making sure that your valuable staff in Australia are fully utilized on high value tasks. That's what you want. Tasks that bring profit, allow you to compete, etc. That's what we're about. We're not about taking jobs. We are about growth, and again, liberating your time to the really useful stuff that you want to be doing that adds the most value to your company. 4, language and cultural barriers. I would say in Cebu, the language isn't a huge problem at all, but the cultural barriers can be. And in fact, they're very high English skills here can confuse and mislead you a little bit, that you're not dealing with a foreigner. Well, I guarantee you are dealing with a foreigner, and you are dealing with someone that comes from a different background with a different focus. So for example, family is everything, absolutely everything. The workplace is seen as a second family, very important. So if the staff member buys in mentally and emotionally, then you will have a very loyal and productive staff member. The Asian value of face, which I know a lot about from being in China and Hong Kong, is probably more important in the Philippines. So please avoid any public reprimand. It doesn't mean you can't reprimand your staff member. You can, certainly. If something's not going right, we'll deal with it. We'll help you deal with it. We can bring in our HR people to sit down and talk with the staff to see what's going on and see how we can improve things. But it should be done privately and should not be a public event. Remember, when we're talking about China and Chinese culture, there are 23 million Filipinos that have Chinese ancestry. So if you think it's a very Chinese culture, you'd be right. The Chinese culture also places an enormous amount of weight on age and seniority. So it can be very difficult for your staff member to tell you that something is wrong, or if they don't understand something, because it's a hierarchical system. We work so hard here to create an open culture, an open environment where staff don't fear speaking out, which helps our clients make sure that they know everything that's going on, and to be able to deal with issues before they become too serious. This is a very, I think, an excellent portrayal or illustration by an artist called Yang Liu. It's Chinese, but it could fit just as well in the Philippines. On the West, we have dealing with problems where we're fairly direct and straightforward with how we deal with it. On the right, we have the Filipino way, which is skirting around the problem. Keep that in mind. You have to work really hard at it, and we work with you on that to achieve an environment where your staff don't skirt around issues. Right, now it's time for another poll break. And I will stop the share now, and we can do our poll. All right, great. So the number one question, the answers were lowering operational costs, and the type of roles was on marketing and social medias, which is interesting. So I'll just reshare my screen. Let's have a look at the pros of outsourcing now. I think the number one pro of outsourcing is allowing you to focus on your core business. So if your company is rapidly growing, then your back office work increases too. Don't let this expansion consume all of your HR and financial resources. Get the admin and HR done in the Philippines so that you can focus on your core services, your core offering, right? So this will help you to expand, to compete without sacrificing your quality of service. So number two, you tap in and leverage global knowledge. I've often thought that this is a very misunderstood aspect of outsourcing. I mentioned before, the barriers to staff location have been removed. You can source your staff anywhere in the world. That means you open yourself up to a global talent pool and allows you to gain access to talent around the world. Number three, expanding and gaining access to new market areas. Having an offshore team allows things such as 24/7 customer support. You could get an offshore call center set up here, literally very, very quickly, days, weeks, etc., and really allows you to service your clients in a way that may not have been possible before, and allow you to attract clients from areas that may not have been possible before. Number four, lower operational labor costs. Look, we understand that lowering the cost is a really important part of this process. We don't want to focus on the cost, but we know that it's really important. There are other areas that are really important to look at as well, but we get that cost is a really big factor in this. So some details, what do you need to know? Well, what do you look for in a BPO partner? So do they have management experience in building teams in the Philippines? Are there Western managers in the company? Look, there are great Filipino people that I've met here that could fit in any Fortune 500 company around the world. But we also believe that it's really important to have Western managers here so that they can act as a bridge between you and the local staff. Are they in a recognized outsourcing center? Is the infrastructure stable? And is there a large talent pool in their location? Right, drilling down a little bit, how does the actual process work? Well, very simple. We have a few steps that go into getting someone on board. So step one, we work with you. We sit down with you. What are your business goals? What do you want to achieve? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And what roles are going to help you get there? Once we've worked out those roles, we start sourcing candidates. We have a large pool already in our databases, and we also actively advertise for roles if needed. Once we've got a candidate, or hopefully candidates for you, you then sit down and talk to them in a virtual meeting. So we do that via Zoom, where you will talk to the candidate, interview them, check that they're right for you. And once you get to a point that you have got a candidate that you like, you tell us, and then we hire them and onboard them, etc., and manage all the day-to-day HR and admin nightmares that can happen, and you just have a productive employee that sits down and does work for you, and that's how it works. Right, so we're almost there now. We're going to get to the Q&A section. So just check if we've got any questions that are out there. I'm just going to stop my share for a minute and have a break. Have a think about any questions that you'd like to ask, and you can put that in the Q&A section, and I will get to it.
Anthony, it's Dee here. Hi, everybody. My name's Dee. I'm based here in Sydney, in Australia, to help handle our clients. Anthony, I've got some questions here for you that sort of came up during the webinar.
Right.
Jason has asked, would he need to go to Cebu to set up his staff?
Look, no, you don't have to. We do think it's a really good idea for people to come up here. It's not an absolute necessity, but I think it's really important to solidify the relationship between your team and the team in Australia and the management in Australia, etc. So I think that while not being absolutely necessary, is something that we recommend. In saying that, I've had people that have set up very large teams here that haven't seen their team for quite a while before they came up. So no, you don't have to come up here at the beginning, but we do highly recommend that you make time to come up to see your team. It's a great team building exercise, and the staff will love having a visit from their client.
Cool.
So hopefully,
Thank
Jason,
you.
that answers it.
Yep, and another one from Andrew this time. He said, we're a small business and we have a couple of different job roles. Do we have mixed teams for the same company? Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yeah, it does, absolutely. We're not a company that specializes in just one area. We think that the best teams are ones that have mixed roles. So some of the best teams that I've had and are still going in the Philippines are mixed roles teams. So it started off with a PA to the CEO. It then moved on. The second hire was an accountant. The next two hires were customer service people. The next two hires were development, and the next two hires were QA. So it was a mixed team and a very, very successful team. So you may want only to get accountants, fine, but yes, mixed teams are totally doable and can be very, very successful. Dee, I was just thinking that another question that was raised recently was regarding the pricing structure. How does that work? It's very, very simple. The pricing structure is totally transparent. We give you a breakdown, so you have a total cost of the staff member, of course, but we also break that down into three components. So the salary, the benefits, and the fee, the Tallant Asia fee, which gets to your total, and that is given to you, and we don't hide any of our costs.
Great. Anthony, I think everyone's probably just about to go, but there is one more if you did want to address it. It's from Mark.
Yep.
His question is, what's the time frame from choosing a candidate to them starting work?
Well, look, it all depends on their availability. Generally, it's 30 days, although quite often people that are in the job market can start straight away. And I've had people come in, be interviewed, and start literally within days. Depending on the role. Of course, it depends on whether we can find the staff, what the role is, and what is their time frame for starting. As in, do they have a contract? We don't want anyone to break their contract. If they've got 30 days notice, then we advise that they give that notice properly. So I would say that most staff have 30 days notice, but you'll find a lot of the time when you're advertising for roles that the staff members that come here can start immediately.
Great. Anthony, there are no more questions. Oh, wait, sorry, there's one more. Okay, from Frederick, his question, what about the fixed costs, rent? Is it included in the salary in the price structure?
That's a very good question, Fred. Thank you for asking that. I should have addressed that. Yeah, absolutely, it's all included. So there are many benefits and benefits that's a cost to the company that aren't part of the salary. So, for example, depending on the base salary of a staff member, the benefits can be up to 50% or more, which is fine. It's just about staff retention and all the other things that are done to keep a good team. There are no other costs. So for the Tallant Asia fee, that includes rental. For setup costs, yes, there are administration and hardware costs. So we generally charge a fee, and then depending on what the hardware is that you want, we'll charge that, but we don't add anything onto that. So you tell us the computers that you want, and we will go out and get them for you at cost. So yeah, but no additional costs for rental, etc. And the cost includes everything, including the 13-month pay. So thank you very much for the question, Fred. Appreciate it.
All right, Anthony, that's it, I believe.
Okay, great.
No other questions coming through.
Awesome. So I'll just leave it for a little while, but one thing I wanted to leave all of the listeners with is a little motto of mine. If it's not core, get it done offshore. Remember that. And also, here are the resources. So and again, we will be putting this up on YouTube so that you can go back and references those resources if you want to do further research on your own. And lastly, I'd like to say many thanks. Thank you for joining us. I hope this has been informative to you or for you. And again, give us a shout out. Our hashtag is outsourceTA. We'd like to again thank you all